Today we're going to be discussing how to graph linear equations. And so in order to do that, we're going to review some things about functions. So the first thing we want to remember is that a function is a rule that has a unique output value for each input value. In other words, this means that there is only one y value for each x value. Now, you need to remember that the domain is the set of x coordinates, or the input, and the range is the set of y coordinates. And so now let's talk a little bit about what linear equations are. A linear equation is a type of line function. So they're going to have rules. And always, no matter what your input is, if you plug it into a function rule, then the graph of the linear equation is always going to be a straight line. And a linear equation represents a situation with a function rule. So we're going to have a rule. And in this case, it's going to look like an equation with two variables, an x and a y. And so let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to graph these. So to graph a linear equation, the first thing you do is you create a table. Then you are going to find some input values, get some output values, and plot the ordered pairs you get. The last thing you'll do is you'll connect the points to form a straight line. So let's look at an example of how we're going to do this. It says graph each linear function and then identify the domain and the range of the ordered pairs. So this is our linear equation right here. That's our linear equation. As you can see, it has an x and a y value, so that tells us that we are going to be graphing this on the coordinate plane. The x represents the x-axis in the equation, and the y represents the y numbers. So what we'll do is, the first thing is we'll create a table. It's already been done for you. Your x values go on the left. In the middle, we put the function rule, which is the x minus 3, so we'll go ahead and write that. And then we're going to pick input values to get some output values after we plug them into the rule. I suggest that you always get a nice spread on the graph by picking some negative numbers, 0, and then some positive numbers. So typically we're going to pick -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. For this function rule, that should give us a nice spread. And then what we'll do is we'll take our input and we'll plug them into the rule. -2 minus 3 is going to give you -5. -1 minus 3 gives you an output of -4. 0 minus 3 gives you -3. And 1 minus 3 gives you -2. And 2 minus 3 gives you -1. So now we've got our ordered pairs. The x's will be our input value, or our output values. Input values will be our x's, and our output values will be our y's. So the ordered pair we're going to plot is -2, -5. So we'll come over to the graph and plot -2, -5. And then we'll plot -1, -4. And then we'll plot over 0 down to -3, and then over 1 down to -2, and over 2 down to -1. So there is the graph of y equals x minus 3. And remember, the domain values are always your input values, so our domain is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And our range is our output values. So we have -5, -4, -3, -2, and -1. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one here. This time our rule is -3 times x. We'll plug that in. We're going to pick our values. We'll plug them in. This time we're multiplying everything by -3. And now that we have our input and our output values, those make ordered pairs, so we're going to go ahead and plot them on the graph. So I'll go over to -2, up to +6, and over to -1, up to +3, and over 0, 0, right in the middle at the origin, over 1 down to -3, and over 2 down to -6. And we always connect our points, and we know that we did this correctly because our points gave us a straight line. So our domain is the input values, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and our output values are 6, 3, 0, -3, -6. Now I wrote the range in descending order, which is fine. However, a lot of times you will see the numbers written in ascending order. The next function rule is -3x plus 2. So we've got two operations to do for this one. So we'll write in our rule. I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger so I can do that. I'll do the table first, make sure we have plenty of room. I'll pick the same values and just start plugging in. You can find the outputs by plugging into each rule, or if you want to fill out the table like this first and then do your math, that's fine too. However you'd like to do that. So we'll go ahead and start doing some math here. -3 times -2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. -3 times -1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. -3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. -3 times 1 is -3, plus 2 is -1. And -3 times 2 is -6, plus 2 is -4. So now we've got our ordered pairs. So we're going to come on over to the graph here and start plotting. We've got -2, 8. And -1, 5. And 0, 2. And 1, -1. And 2, -4. And we know we're correct because we just graphed our straight line. And I'm sure your line will look a little bit better than mine. And then we'll go ahead and put in our domain and our range for our graph. So, of course, the domain is the input. And then our range is 8, 5, 2, -1, and -4.